So I got two things for you. First of all, first is a theory, and second is a personal story of mine, a demonic assassination attempt.
Cool.
Okay, let's hear it.
So the theory is, and this is just my opinion. I don't really have. Take it with a huge grain of salt. So you were talking about before about the thought that if it were possible, us essentially creating our own demons.
Mm-hmm.
I developed a theory kind of a while back that so evil and demonic forces, their primary power, or if you will, is that of deception. And so if somebody gives their time and attention and essentially, I mean, worship for lack of a better term, to an idea or a thing, that thing can then become a source of
You're
I'm
referring to
failing here
manifestation?
to really describe what I'm talking about, but I'll take an example, and I don't want to make any enemies here, but in say Hispanic Catholicism, you see a lot of like the candles with the white Jesus
Right.
on them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that isn't that isn't a biblical image of Christ, but you have a percentage of the population that essentially treats that as the truth. They worship that form of Jesus, but it isn't Jesus at all. It's a manufactured, like a man-made image, if you will.
Right. Christ was said
And
to have been more of a darker skin, like Egyptian, whatnot, in color.
yeah,
And
yeah.
you're saying that
So
that's part of the deception, in your view?
yeah, so I just I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this, but it's just a theory I have that it doesn't matter whether it's a false image of Christ or any other thing. It's if people focus their time and attention and religiosity, I suppose, on a thing,
Mm-hmm.
that thing can be inhabited by evil, an evil spirit. And I don't know.
Well, it's like
Like I said, it's just a theory. I'm not I'm not trying to put forth any kind of authority behind. This is it's just something to think about.
well, it's kind of like the idea of false idols, right? People worshiping things they shouldn't.
Yeah, crossed with
Yeah.
What it basically sounds like you're saying is that it is possible to put forth energies into something and have it manifest into something physical,
Yeah.
or metaphysical, depending
Yeah.
on what.
Yep. And I agree with you on the deception aspect as well. Deception is a constant through evil on this planet, and it's always trying to get you to believe in this or that, and it's for the wrong reasons. And
Yeah.
that is that you can look at that in everything, politics, all this stuff. It's the propaganda for war. Everyone's trying to deceive you to own your point of view.
Yeah.
But if you want to
Yeah.
continue with your demonic assassination attempt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I am a Christian. I have been my whole life, and many years ago I was in my youth group. I started what we were referring to as a spiritual warfare prayer group.
Mhm.
And we would gather at our church and pray before we walked out onto the streets of our city.
Mm.
And we were just walking a group and visit different locations around the city that had a one form or another a type of negative influence, I suppose,
Yep.
in the city. one prime example was there was a liquor store not too far from where my church was, and right across the street was an Alcoholics Anonymous. And so we gathered as a group in front of the liquor store, and prayed that prayed for the people that visit there, that they would not succumb to addiction and all of that. And then we crossed the street to the Alcoholics Anonymous and prayed for the people that do struggle with addiction, that they would be able to break it and not be tempted
Right.
by and at the time in Washington State, the alcohol was a state-run thing that, like, basically it was the Washington State Liquor Board. And I don't know how it works in other states, but it was one way in Washington State, and then a law was changed, and now it's more. Taxes are still sales tax is still accrued or whatever through that, but through purchase. But it's no longer a state-run thing.
Okay.
Anyway, so we prayed for those that were attending Alcoholics Anonymous, that AA would be able to help them and all that. Within a month, the state-run Washington State Liquor Board office, the place where you go in and you buy all your hard alcohol, it didn't go out of business. They just moved location to a different location, but it was nowhere near the Alcoholics Anonymous. So it's like it was the temptation was removed from that situation. So if you were somebody going to AA, you no longer had that temptation right there in front of you every single time you went. So I consider that a tangible example of our prayer group,
Making some
approaching heaven and having a positive effect. Yeah. Anyway, so a while in, and I'm sorry for dragging this on.
Go for it. You're fine.
But anyway, I was working a graveyard shift at a local warehouse, and I came home from work one morning and really tired. I just went straight to bed and immediately went into just a really, really deep sleep. And as I was sleeping, I started to become gradually more and more aware of a malevolent presence wrapping itself around my head and forcing my soul out of my body, down through my bed, through the floor, and gradually peeling me effectively apart from my body and forcing me down this like an endless, bottomless well. There was no light. It was cold, dark, and essentially, whatever connotation you have with the term pit of hell was where I was being ripped out of my body and pushed into. The malevolence of this presence is not something that I can describe in words. It was specifically there to kill me. And as this is happening, I started hearing what sounded like a phone ringing. Like we didn't have my roommates and I didn't have we had cell phones, but they were like still. It was such a new thing that we still had like a landline in the apartment. And it sounded like the phone ringing, but in like it was miles away, and it was a long, slow, drawn out ringing, and then it just kept going and ending and going and ending and going and ending. And finally, at some point, I snapped out of my sleep, and I'm just exhausted, like I've been fighting for my life. And I hear the phone ringing. It's actually the phone. I get up, and I'm just stumbling out of my room to get to the phone. At that time, if the phone rang like 3 times, it automatically went to voicemail.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, I pick up the phone, and it's my roommate, and I can't describe to you, like, what this guy's personality was. He's very selfish, very arrogant. If you try and ask him, it's like, say you want to organize with him to, like, plan something for the weekend. He doesn't want you digging into his business, so he's like, how dare you ask me, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
He was calling the house to let me know that he was on his way home from work, which makes absolutely no sense. He'd never done that before or since. It was 100% outside of his personality or character to do something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't make sense to me then. It doesn't make sense to me now. But the fact that he called at all, I think, was the thing that the phone ringing, I think, is what woke me up. And I can only consider it an act of God that in that situation I was essentially spared what I was going through at that moment.
When you were describing the sensation of being peeled apart, I think you said, was there pain involved with that?
No, it was more of like a staticky, like if you could feel what Velcro feels like, like, not feels like, if you it felt like Velcro being pulled apart.
Talk about that
Like if you're
tingly feeling in your foot when it falls asleep.
not like not like a
Like a static.
I mean, I suppose kind of like that. It was strange, but it wasn't painful.
And can you describe what it looked like?
I couldn't see the entity itself.
Mm-hmm.
I just, everything was darkness. And then, like, the area below me that I was being forced into was completely devoid of energy. It was it I mean, it was like, there were, it's like there were walls around, like a certain, well, I don't know. The only light there was from above, and it was very dim. And then it was like it was basically like looking face first down into a well or a pit, like with no bottom.
Were there sounds coming out of it or anything?
No.
Just the darkness.
Yeah.
Well, that's wild. That's a wild story, and I like the detail of the roommate who's selfish, randomly calling you and helping you, almost like a literal landline, pulling you out of that fight with the demon. Well, glad you're here. Glad you survived. We appreciate the phone call, sir.